Chu. I'm the group product manager for the monitor, release, and configure stages. And today I'm here to talk about incident management, which is a relatively new set of features we have in GitLab. And recently we just released on-call schedule management. Given that, we thought it'd be great for you all to learn a little bit about it. I'm going to start presenting my screen. And since there's so few of us here, feel free to interrupt me at any time with questions, or if you want to dive into a particular area, I don't mind pausing and answering your question as soon as you have them. Okay, so the agenda for today, we're going to first talk a little bit about what incident management is, and hopefully get you excited about incident management at GitLab. And lastly, I want to talk about how I would like your help in getting our feature into the hands of customers. So what is incident management? What's a problem we're trying to solve? At the end of the day, no one wants downtime, but it happens all the time. And downtime is expensive for companies. And for companies that experience downtime, the obvious thing is they want to recover from them as quickly as possible. So incident management is all about that. It's helping coordinate the efforts to reduce downtime. As an aside, contrasting that to monitoring. Monitoring is about knowing when something is wrong, or potentially helping diagnose what that problem is that led to problems. And on the other side, it's like responding to incidents is also hard and stressful. So for SREs, for infrastructures, when you're constantly in the loop of responding to downtime, this leads to burnout. We hear a lot from the folks that we interview with that a constant problem is alert fatigue, having constantly to respond to downtime, and you see a lot of people in that role constantly churning. When organizations get into that state, it's something that's hard to recover from. And so because of this, incident management has become a must-have tool for many organizations. Looking at the competition, what we've learned is that still a lot of companies have homegrown solutions for incident management, but there does exist several well-known brands in this space. Large organizations typically buy one of these services, and smaller organizations typically have some homegrown tool using Slack as a central way to communicate. And one trend that we do see in this space is there is consolidation of incident management tool into other workflow tools or monitoring tools. The one exception is the market leader, PagerDuty, which still stands as a standalone tool. My theory for this is typically incident management tool is expensive. So PagerDuty, for example, charges about $20 per hit, and there's various levels of like buckets of pages that you get with that pricing model. Since it is expensive, it makes more sense for it to be rolled into another tool in order to get the benefit across a number of different feature sets. So yeah, anyway, we can talk a little bit more about our strategy in this space in a little bit.
Hey, Nick, are you trying to share slides or?
I'm not sharing slides at all. I'm sorry. That's terrible. So I've just been talking to myself. Thank you for noticing that. All right. This is the slide I was showing. And I had a nice cloud losing money earlier that you all missed. Anyway, cool. So what does incident management actually do? There's a few jobs that incident management tools are hired for. First, it's a centralized place to collect alerts. Alerts are typically raised in monitoring tools. So, and organizations can often have more than one monitoring tool that they're using at a time. So it's nice to not have to go to different places to see your different alerts that's raised from different parts of your tech stack. Um, and once an alert comes into an incident monitoring tool, they typically try to hydrate the alert with more information so that incident responders can react and or can understand more about what this thing is. And if it's important enough, they will raise an incident. An incident becomes something that more than more people are involved in to try to resolve because it is considered that it's impacting the business in some way. Another thing that the incident management tool does is it gathers all the people that's going to respond to the incident. So this is when paging happens. So typically the setup is you have a schedule or plan who's going to be on call. And once an alert comes in, uh, you send off a page to people so that they will come and take a look even if it's outside the normal working hours. Once the team is gathered, the incident management tool is responsible for automating some of the tasks to facilitate coordination among team members. So it can be things such as create a Slack channel or create a Zoom call where people can talk synchronously. Uh, Also, the information that are gathered, the steps taken by the incident response team are typically recorded in a single document so that it can be reused in the future or turn into a run book that the team can take and apply when the same problem occurs in the future. And lastly, the incident management tools are typically responsible for facilitating post-incident review. This is an important step because by gathering what has happened in the past, what the team has learned from it, they can then and make gradual improvement, improve and iterate over time. All right, so I'm gonna move to show you what we built so far. Typically, the first place that you start is setting up a on-call schedule. And this feature was just recently released in 13.11. And we're going to continue making more improvements to it over time. My window slightly. First thing what I'll do is I'll add a schedule. You can think of a schedule as a plan to who is going to respond to an incident when an incident occurs. So I'll just give it a name. I can add a description. Doesn't matter the time zone. I'll add a schedule. So once you add a schedule, you'll see that a schedule by itself is not enough. Another concept that's within our incident management tool is the idea of a rotation. So the rotation includes the people who are going to participate in an incident. So I'm going to add myself, going to add a few other people that I know are in this project. I'll set it to start a few days ago at the beginning of the month, and I'll set it so in this example where each person is on rotation for 7 days. There are other things that you can set, such as setting an end date for this particular rotation or restricting this to a specific time interval. Oftentimes, incident response teams will have specific hours that they work. For GitLab, for example, we have people located around different parts of the world. Depending on where they live, they might be on call at different times during the day to cover for the 24 hours. In this case, it's not necessary, so I'll just remove that. So a particular schedule can also have more than one rotation. So for example, this might be the case. You might have your first line of people that respond to incidents, but they typically will have backups. But for this example, I'm just going to add myself again. What we have so far in the project to set up the schedule and set up the rotation. Once this is set, the people that appear on the schedule will receive an email when the alert comes into the project. For incident management tools, this is not quite enough. What we'll be adding in the next few milestones is we're going to be adding this concept of escalation policy. What an escalation policy is whenever an alert comes in, escalation policy is responsible for figuring out how to contact the people that needs to respond to the alert. So you could set it up so the person receives a page, receives a ping in GitLab, receives an email, receives a phone call. So that will be coming up in the next few milestones. Currently, we just have email as a way of notifying people that are on call. So once this is done, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to trigger an alert. I'm just going to use our alert integration. There's a capability to send a test alert to set things up. So I just sent this alert, and what you'll see is at some point, here it is. This notifies the responder that something has happened. Clicking through the email, that brings you directly to the alert details page. But before we show that, here is the alerts list page. And you'll see that alert that was just triggered a minute ago. So this is a place where an SRE team or infrastructure team can monitor throughout the working day if they're not on call to understand what is happening across their system. It's a single location where all the alerts hopefully is aggregated. So you can do certain filtering and certain sorting to facilitate the workflow for the SRE team. Clicking into the alert. Actually, one other thing I want to show you real quick is it's important for alerts to be actionable. So I just sent multiple of the same type of alert, which is very typical in a real situation, because when something goes wrong, the monitoring engine will keep sending additional alerts if the threshold is met. If you have to respond to the same alert over and over, that's not particularly useful. What the team has built is the ability to aggregate alerts that are of the same type together. So you'll notice that there's actually been 4 of the same type of events that has occurred. So clicking into this alert, on the main details page, you'll see all the information that was supplied by the originating source. If you have a monitoring tool that's more deeply integrated, currently it's only with Prometheus, the metrics will also show up here. And any actions you have taken will show up in the activity feed. So in this case, I'm going to assign this alert to myself and acknowledge that I've seen the alert. This will tell my teammates that I am on top of this particular issue. And as I look at this alert, I notice that it is actually a critical alert. So in this case, the workflow is to create a new incident. Once the incident is created, this is where you and your teammates can collaborate to resolve the incident and bring it back to normal working situation. So looking at this incident details page, what this is actually a different issue type. So if we go to issues, something that's new, that's relatively new, that's added, is you can actually create an incident also manually should your workflow dictate that that's how things are done. But in our example, we can create an incident directly from our alerts. And in the new incident issue type, it links to all of the alert details. You'll notice there's something specific about this issue type that's different. The details page is filled in with a pre-built template. We have things specific for instance, such as time to SLA, which you can set up as under operations or under settings in operations to notify. Under this tab, there's under incident settings, you can activate a specific time. That's a countdown timer to notify the team how much time has expired. And typically teams aim to respond to an incident within a certain amount of time. Back to my instance. Additionally, from within the incident page, you can say, for example, publish this information to a status page, or collect all the information as you work through the incident to resolve the issue. The comment thread automatically becomes a timeline that the team can review once the incident is resolved. Any thoughts or questions so far?
Yeah, thanks for that, Kevin. I've written up the questions into the doc as well, but I'll verbalize it here.
Okay.
First one is, wanted to understand if the alerts are rolled up to the group level.
Eventually it will be. Currently, it's only at the project level.
Okay. And so I guess it kind of leads to my next question, which is what size customer is GitLab's incident management capability well suited for?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'll cover that shortly. Let me reshare my screen. Cool. I'll walk through what we have today and
Sure.
What's coming up next real quick. So what we have today is integration. And by integration specifically, we have an HTTP endpoints that's able to receive webhook alerts from various monitoring tools. And you can map whatever the fields are for a specific alert to the way that GitLab displays information within our system. As you saw, responders can triage their alerts in a single location, and they can also triage incidents in a single location. What we just released was on-call schedule management, which I showed you in the very beginning of the demo. And we're continuing to make more improvements to it. There's some more polishing that's needed for the specific feature. what we're working on next is paging escalation. So escalation policy, again, is letting users determine how they want to be contacted. And paging, the plan so far is we're going to integrate with Twilio. The first version of that is we're going to enable people to bring their own Twilio account so that they will have a relationship with Twilio directly in order to facilitate paging. But in the future, I imagine we're going to enable GitLab to supply the paging capability out of the box. What's not mentioned on here is group level. So on the project level, it's certainly insufficient for larger organizations who will have a bunch of different projects for their application. So I imagine post-paging and escalation, we will turn our attention to group level capabilities for incident management. And to answer your question, Edmund, excuse me, what we built today, we believe is a fit for customers who have homegrown incident management solutions. Specifically because right now, we haven't had a lot of feedback on the entire workflow. What we've observed customers using is specific features within incident management. So we would like to use what we built today, ideally to replace other homegrown solutions, and we believe it's an improvement for most that are in that situation. For larger customers, as I said, they typically have a tool that exists today, whether it's PagerDuty, Opsgenie, or something else. The problem that we've heard over and over again is that they feel that it's much too expensive, especially when they have to buy a seat for everyone that may at some point interface with the incident, which is not all the time. So they want to consolidate their tool set in something that they already have. So for customers that want to cut costs on incident management, our product will eventually make sense. But I think that's after we have escalation policy, paging, and the ability to work with incident at the group level. Does that make sense? You're on mute. I see you talking, but I still can't hear you. I'm not sure if it's me.
Sorry. I was wondering, thanks for answering that question, and wondering if we have plans to dog food incident management at GitLab.
Yes, we do. The plan is to run, because incident management has a pretty high bar before you can be put into production. We at GitLab similarly have a high bar because we want to be able to rely on the system 100% of the time. The plan to dog food is actually start by running what we've been calling game days to simulate incidents that are similar to what we see happening in reality. And gradually over time, as we build up more confidence in the product, we're going to start using this ourselves. We're not quite there yet today. Let's take a look. There's a question on how does incident management capabilities compare to other tools?
Kevin,
I would
thanks.
say, yeah, no problem.
Appreciate that.
So Mark, that's a great question too. One of the key, I want to highlight I want to talk about two things. Number one is the workflow that I showed earlier when I wasn't sharing my screen. This workflow, this is very similar across all the incident management tools. The difference typically, or I should say, modern incident management tools like PagerDuty or OpsGenie. The difference between those modern tools is how they kind of group things together. So for example, we call a plan a schedule, and a group of people who fits within a schedule, a rotation, and how we page people an escalation policy. So different tools will have different names for that, and they may facilitate you in setting up incident response in different ways. I would say that one thing that we are not doing today is we did not build specific custom integration with all the monitoring tools. This is one of the ways that tools like PagerDuty or OpsGenie have become really, really popular. But to pursue the route of building a specific integration with every single monitoring tool that could be out there that people are using is really expensive, and it really takes a huge investment effort. Right now, our strategy is to have a very basic integration point by building a HTTP endpoint that can receive webhooks. While this covers a lot of ground, we do imagine people want deeper integrations that facilitates two-way communication at some point in the future. How necessarily that is for SMBs who are replacing homegrown tools, we don't know. From our research, there's indication that it is sufficient to get started, but we may need to change that stance once we learn more. For enterprises, our working theory is that it is possible that what we have today is good enough, especially considering the cost savings that they would get by switching over to GitLab Incident Management. But that's something also that we need to evaluate further.
Any customers using it today that you know of?
So the end-to-end flow, not yet, because we literally just released on-call schedule management. But we are seeing a ton of people already using specifically incidents as a separate issue type. The reason for that is I believe there is latent demand for kind of just people wanting non-issue types. So incident is one way to kind of just demarcate a different type of work item that people are using today. We are starting to see more and more people set up alert integrations. So that's been growing. But incident management only becomes useful once you have the entire workflow. So that's what the team is hard at work working on today.
So, John, just from a format standpoint, I know this is a skills exchange. Is it also meant to be a discussion forum, or is it more delivering of the information and the updates?
Yeah, absolutely. I would think of this as a group conversation.
Okay. So I just, as somebody who speaks to customers on the front line representing GitLab's capabilities, I think this is really cool. I would probably position it more as dealing in the enterprise space, as something that can help a customer streamline their management of an application rather than an enterprise. Being able to monitor the application performance capabilities such through Prometheus that they're deploying, assuming they're using GitLab for deploy, as well, and tying that all together, then I think we have a really interesting incident management workflow. Thinking ahead, if I were to have this conversation with a customer, I think one of the questions that'll come up is, this is great, my team can get alerted. Is there any way to feed those alerts up into a enterprise incident management platform? Something that the ops teams would actually monitor as opposed to the apps teams.
Got it. So targeting more of the developer persona first.
In terms of its current capabilities, or a application ops team, not an enterprise ops team.
Got it. And how would you define, sorry, that's the first time I heard that phrase, development ops team?
Well, so I think it's more a question of, if I think about large enterprises, banks, utilities and such, they have a whole ops console with an incident management platform that probably has some AI or log scraping combination to identify which incidents are actually an issue, and then correlate that with others to say, okay, there's enough correlation here to raise a ticket and create an issue that is going to call attention in ServiceNow or something like that, that drives a workflow and so on and so forth. It's quite elaborate, but these large enterprises may have an app that they're deploying that's of particular importance, and there is a team that is going to be responsible for triaging that and wants a closer, better observability of what's happening in that app that they're responsible for. These are the people who will go out and buy their own copies or their own use of App Dynamics or New Relic or Datadog or something like that for their app. I think that's probably just imagining the fit for my customers. I think this fits better with that in terms of our current capabilities, and how it would be useful from an end-to-end standpoint at a project level.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I'd love to connect with you further and
Sure.
talk specifically about like what customers that might be a good fit for. Yeah, we're super open to particularly this type of feedback, because we do understand like it is limited today, especially relative to the main tool that people are going to be using. If we can solve another problem in the interim, that I'm all for it.
Yeah, happy to chat.
Cool. Let me see. There is a few other questions from Samir and Adrian. Adrian, I think is on the call, but let me finish the content I prepared. So actually, I won't cover this because we were just talking about it. I hope you care about incident management because it adds value to the GitLab platform. There is this additional value proposition should help with conversations. And eventually, we do see this as a way to expand to a different set of users completely than the one we directly is a fit for today with the GitLab application. So as we grow this capability, I think it should get more and more interesting for most of your customers. I covered the target audience already, and here's some discovery questions that may be useful to you. This information will be available to you later, and additional resources are mainly in our direction page, and I'd love to hear from you if you have additional thoughts or questions after this call. Yeah, I just realized I am not sharing my screen again, so I was talking in vacuum. Really apologize for that. But anyway, I'm going to turn it over to questions. So Samir says customer has AWS instance and is trying to figure out how to use incident management. It's a normal use case to tie the logs to alerts and that is used to create incidents. Do you have a use case workflow recommendation? So typically logs and to tie logs to alerts. I wouldn't say it's typically to tie logs to alerts. More often the case is an alert is generated within a system. So for AWS, you can have alarms within CloudWatch, and you can have those alarms be sent to GitLab. So they will show up within GitLab Incident Management in the alert list. And the alerts then would trigger a page to a incident responder that is set up within a schedule. Second question is, are we planning as AI ops integration? This is a great question, and this is something I did not mention. So one of the key features that a more established player within incident management is focused on a lot these days is using AI to become smarter with alert management. One of the main problems for a lot of teams is alert fatigue, where too many alerts come in all the time. At some point, you don't pay as much attention to them as you need to, which may prolong incidents when they do occur. So a lot of times the solution to that is to monitor what has happened in the past and use that information to get smarter about having a computer figure out which alert is actually important. So currently we don't have specific plans for AI ops integration, but it is something that we're thinking about that we hope to eventually introduce in the future. Thanks, Adrian, for capturing the notes. I'll verbalize your question. Do you see
sure.
it?
Well, sorry, I was going to verbalize it, but
okay, go ahead, please.
I think I can probably reword it. It's sort of a pricing question, really, and I think you more or less answered it. It was looking at, do we expect the users of incident management to be existing GitLab users? Because in many customers, I could see they may well not be. And then you mentioned that existing tools are expensive. I wondered, what is expensive? Because the features in incident management look to be spread. Some are in free tier, some are in premium, some are in ultimate. So if we've got a user that wouldn't be on GitLab that we had to put on ultimate to get incident management, how would the price of that compare to, say, an existing enterprise grade incident management tool?
Yeah, great questions. So certain features are just available in core and other features are available in premium today. Right now, there is no incident management tool capability that's in ultimate. And I'll explain why that is. So we built incident management based on some existing pieces within GitLab. So for example, an incident is an issue. An issue is obviously available at the free tier. So if you're just using an incident issue, that's freely available, but that's not the incident management workflow. We imagine the incident management workflow will be at the premium tier. So that's so that will include things like schedule management, various or multiple alert integration, eventually alerts and incidents at the group level. Things of that nature will all be at the premium tier. What we haven't determined for certain is as far as like paging feature goes, like what's the tranche of pages that's available. Our first iteration is likely the users will bring their own Twilio account to integrate with GitLab. since they're responsible for their Twilio account and GitLab's not paying for that, they're free to use it as they wish. But if we are offering the tranche of pages that GitLab is managing, thus far we think, I think the latest thinking is that still should be a premium feature rather than the ultimate feature. When we talk about ultimate feature in the future, it's more things like AI ops and things of that nature.
Okay. I just flicked down the features page and just happened to spot one ultimate on the under incident management.
Oh, is that
status page is down as an ultimate, but I
Oh,
guess
that's right.
That's not a specific user capability, really, is it? But,
yeah, and the status page, it's placed at ultimate, but it's really an early state product that frankly doesn't do a whole lot today. But I can see that eventually being an ultimate feature because who we will be competing with in that space, typically people charge. We're targeting the larger enterprises that really need that feature.
okay. And so the price in a premium would be competitive with other tools?
Yeah, so let's talk more about pricing in this space. So PagerDuty, just taking PagerDuty as an example, PagerDuty charges $20 per hit. There's more variations of that, but that's like a typical on paper price, and that's but it gets expensive fast because if you're a DevOps shop, you're building microservices, all of a sudden all these people need to be available on call in some fashion. So the pricing scales up really quickly. Speaking to a really large customer of ours, they are paying PagerDuty licenses for 5,000 of their team members. So that's quite a bit of money every single month going to PagerDuty, and it's one of those tools that ideally you don't ever have to use because you're not having downtime all the time. But for coverage, you need to ensure that everyone has access. So we think our working theory is that for an ultimate customer or a premium customer, since you already have access, since your developers that may be on call already have access, and they're really benefiting from the rest of GitLab, that would make a lot more sense to get GitLab incident management capabilities. That's something that you're already paying for. You make a lot more financial sense that way.
Okay, thanks.
Cool. Mark, Anthony, any thoughts or questions? Or anyone else?
Don't see any more in the doc. Tried to capture as much notes as I could, and I'll take a look at the transcript and see if I can't pull out some more tidbits from the call. But I guess before we wrap up, any famous last words? Questions, comments? All right. Well, I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day. I want to give you the time back. Thanks so much for the presentation, Kevin. I enjoyed it.
Thank you. Thank you all for your time.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Kevin.
it.
Thanks, Kevin.
Bye.
Bye.